Good morning, everybody, and Shubho Noboborsho to you all. Today, I shall discuss on the course 7A, that is Pedagogy of Science Teaching, under the syllabus of second semester. Today, my topic is approaches and methods of teaching science. Very important topic it is. Previously, I have discussed about the nature of science, objectives of teaching science, and science curriculum. Now, today, I shall discuss on the approaches and methods of teaching science. An approach may be explained as a comprehensive way of dealing with a particular problem. It is a general plan of action on the basis of which various methods and models are evolved. However, a method is an orderly and logical arrangement of ideas based on a particular approach. It is a procedural illustration of systematic and clearly defined steps of accomplishing particular objectives, whereas an approach can be called as a premise or precursor on which a method is designed. Now, there are a variety of approaches and methods for teaching science. The following are the important methods and approaches which I am telling point-wise. Number 1, inquiry approach. Number 2, problem-solving approach. Number 3, lecture method. Number 4, lecture cum demonstration method. Number 5, demonstration method. 6, laboratory method. 7, scientific method. And 8, project method. These are very much important and useful method in teaching science and other disciplines also. Now I go to demonstration method. It is also important method of teaching science, and it is very popular method which we use in our teaching science. Demonstration means to show. In lecture method, the teacher just talks, but in demonstration method, he only shows or illustrates certain phenomena, concepts, or principles. Demonstrations provide concrete experiences to students. Thus, by demonstrations, some abstract ideas are also made clear to students. Rather, we tell the abstract becomes concrete in this method. Using demonstration method, the teacher can give, number 1, illustrate abstract ideas in concrete form. Number 2, coordinate theory with practicals. Number 3, do those demonstrations which are dangerous for students to perform themselves. Number 4, teach how to solve a problem. A problem can be solved by using demonstration using the following steps. What are the steps? 1, pose a problem to students. 2, invite their hypothesis. 3, provide concrete experiences. That means demonstration of experiments for the solution of the problem. Number 4, enable students to reach on some right conclusions. Now, how to use this method? When using this demonstration method, the teacher should keep in mind the following characteristics of a good demonstration. Which are these? Number 1, it should be clearly visible to all students, even to the backbenchers. Number 2, students should be fully involved in their work or in their method of practice. Number 3, if there are more than one demonstration in a lesson, they should be done in proper logical sequence. Number 4, in a demonstration, only one idea should be taken at a time. Many ideas in one demonstration may confuse the students very much. Number 5, as far as possible, results of the experimental demonstration should not be known to students. Now, my point is, what are the advantages and disadvantages relating to demonstration method? There are some advantages which are very much useful relating the demonstration method in teaching science. The advantages are: number 1, there is a possibility of using more sophisticated apparatus which generally student cannot handle in laboratory. Number 2, more difficult experiments may be undertaken in this method. Number 3, more hazardous experiments may be attempted. Number 4, expenses may be minimized compared to laboratory method. Number 5, there is a possibility of demonstrating manipulative and allied practical skills. Number 6, there is a possibility to draw attention of all the students of the class simultaneously. And number 7, it takes less time compared to laboratory and another innovative methods like inquiry approach, problem solving approach, scientific method and project method, etc. And lastly, I can tell about the advantage, that is, teacher is in a position to explain each and every step and to ensure that all students see and interpret all the work in the same manner. Now, what are the disadvantages? Number 1, all students do not do the experiment with their own hands. It is a substitute for laboratory work. Number 2, when the demonstration is complex or there are too many demonstrations in one lesson, students feel difficulty in understanding the basic concepts, principles, and skills of the work. Number 3, various details of the apparatus, significant reactions, and other essential steps undertaken by the teacher in drawing conclusions are not necessarily visible to all the students of the class equally well. And number 4, it deprives students of many of the advantages of laboratory method, such as handling of the apparatus and other materials, as well as making their own interpretations. Now I shall discuss the another method, that is called lecture cum demonstration method. It is also very useful in classroom situation. In essence, a lecture consists of one person talking to many about a topic or theme. The talk may be augmented by the use of demonstration being performed by the teacher. Then we call it a lecture cum demonstration. The main purposes of a lecture cum demonstration are: 1, to convey information; 2, to generate understanding; 3, to stimulate interest. Now, I shall discuss how to use this method. When using this method, the following factors have to be kept in mind in both cases for teachers and students. Number 1, a lecture cum demonstration should have clarity. The use of explicit language, repetition of main points, statements with the beginning and end of subtopics, adequate examples, and introduction of the demonstration at appropriate juncture bring clarity. Number 2, a lecture cum demonstration has to be made interesting. It is essential that the lecture cum demonstration should not be monotonous Appropriate stimulus variation techniques such as voice tone, questioning, facial expression, etc., are important. Also, the structure of the lesson can be made problem centered. Number three, too many ideas or demonstrations should not be taken up in one time. A 35-minute lecture can be interspersed with about two demonstrations taking up about 15 minutes. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages relating lecture cum demonstration method? First, the advantages are: number one, a lot of knowledge can be imparted consuming less time. Second, theory and practical aspects can be taken up side by side. Number three, examples can be illustrated verbally as well as in front of the eyes of the students. Number four, in small groups, lecture cum demonstration method can be used for developing problem solving skills and scientific attitude among the students. Now, what are the disadvantages? Number one, students' involvement is quite less. This method is essentially teacher centered. Number two, it is not always possible to hold student attention while using this method. Number three, the teacher cannot receive immediate feedback as to the effectiveness of the lesson. Now, my point is when to use this method and why. There is a very popular talisman in science education which states, I heard and I forgot, I saw and I remembered, I did and I understood. If we will use just lectures for teaching science, children will forget after some time. If we will teach by lecture cum demonstration method, children will remember for years to come. Then if children are also fully involved during lecture cum demonstration method, it will help them to understand quickly and they will really enjoy the lesson. Now I am going to another important method or popular method of teaching science, that is laboratory method. In laboratory method, students perform laboratory experiments by their own hands individually or in small groups under the supervision and guidance of their science teacher. As for example, by physics teacher, by chemistry teacher, or by biology teacher. So here students are more active and involved as compared to lecture and demonstration method, where teacher was performing experiments and most of the students in the class were just passive observers. The role of the teacher when using this laboratory method in teaching science, they acts as a facilitator. Not only teacher, they acts as a facilitator. The teacher goes to different individuals or small groups, observes them what they are doing, corrects them if they are doing something wrong, and he is always available to students when they really need him for any guidance. So laboratory method, precisely we explain it, the basic principle of laboratory method is learning by doing. Unless students perform experiments themselves, they will never get to know what science really is. In this method, they get an opportunity to do experiments individually or in small groups. Generally, lab experiments are of 5 kinds. 1. Experiments to illustrate scientific principles. Number 2. Experiments to find numerical results. Number 3. Experiments to produce something such a preparation of gases of biological slides or biological slides. Number 4. Experiments to verify experiments carried out by other scientists, like verification of Ohm's law, etc. And number 5, original work like investigatory science projects or open-ended experiments. When teaching science by laboratory method, the following objectives should be kept in mind. The objectives are as follows. Number 1, to develop manipulative skills. Number 2, to arouse and maintain interest in science. Number 3, to encourage accurate observations and careful recording. Number 4, to make biological, chemical, and physical phenomena more real through actual experience. And number 5, to train students in science processes. Number 6, to give training in problem solving. Number 7, to verify facts and principles already taught in theory. And last, to give training in open-ended experiments, scientific method, and investigatory science projects. Now my point is how to use this laboratory method. In our schools at secondary level, that means at class 9-10 level, and senior secondary, that is 11-12 stage, students go to science laboratories to do practical work. Usually in every school there are 3 science laboratories: physics, chemistry, and biology. For laboratory work, 2 continuous periods of about 30 minutes each are given. At secondary stage, that means 9-10 stage, students go to laboratory work once a week. At senior secondary stage, that means at 11-12 stage, students go to laboratory work twice a week in every subject. Generally, students work in groups of about 20. So, the first step to use laboratory method in teaching science is to divide the students into groups and make the laboratory timetable in such a way that each group get equal number of periods for practical work. And the second step to use laboratory method in teaching science is to follow some guidelines to make this method feasible and successful. What are the steps? First step, experiment must be accessible to the students when needed. Number 1, waiting time should be minimum. Number 2, material should be placed in such a manner that they can be easily found by students. And second guideline is there should never be shortage of equipments and material needed for practical work. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of laboratory method? As I have discussed in another methods also. The advantages are: number 1, it is learning by doing process. Second, opportunity to handle material by their own hands. Number 3, learning to follow directions carefully. Number 4, opportunity for critical thinking, scientific attitude, and scientific temper. And number 5, opportunity of training in scientific method and investigatory science projects. And what are the disadvantages relating this laboratory method? Those are: number 1, more expensive as separate equipment is to be provided to each student. Number 2, difficult to schedule in the school timetable as double periods are to be provided in groups. Number 3, more time consuming compared to lecture cum demonstration method as students are unskilled workers and not as competent to handle apparatus as their teachers. Now my point is when to use this method and why. In our objective is that children should do their own learning by doing, should handle apparatus and material by their own hands, and should learn science processes. We should use laboratory method in teaching science. We can remember the science teaching talisman if our objective is that children should remember for some time, use lecture method. If our objective is that children should remember for a long time, use lecture demonstration method. That means lecture come demonstration method. If our objective is that children should understand and thus retain forever, use the laboratory method. That's all for today.